Features on literacy champions continue, and we're delighted to be joined today by Craig Alexander. And Craig is the Vice President and Deputy Chief Economist for TD Bank Financial Group. Craig, thanks very much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And Craig, one of the fascinating things, and you've authored a research report for TD Bank, and it was entitled "Literacy Matters" in 2007. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. For quite a long time, TD has been a strong advocate in favor of boosting literacy skills in Canada, and this is for a whole variety of different reasons. In our view, literacy is really a core foundation skill set. It's basically the foundation upon which you learn and grow. And for an awful lot of Canadians, higher literacy skills could actually open more doors. This is all about unlocking potential. Mm-hmm. And when we look at the state of the Canadian economy, there is a real issue around productivity. The Canadian economy's performance on productivity has been relatively weak. And when we talk about, how do we improve workers' skill sets? How do we make the economy more innovative, more productive? Mm-hmm. I think that literacy could actually be a big part of the answer. I think that by unlocking people's potential and giving them the skills that they need in order to develop abilities that will help foster a more modern, knowledge-based, innovative economy. I think that the Canadian economy as a whole could reap the benefits of that. And quite frankly, this is a very powerful message for both business and individuals. From an individual point of view, literacy couldn't be more important. When you think about what does higher literacy skills do? Well, it basically means the stronger your literacy skills, the more likely you are to go on to post-secondary education, the more likely you are to succeed at post-secondary education. And that really boosts your income over your entire lifetime. It leads to a higher standard of living. And when you enter the labor market, stronger literacy skills makes you more employable. It raises the odds of getting a good job. And in actual fact, what we've observed is that when there are tough economic times, people with stronger literacy skills generally experience lower rates of unemployment, and if they do become unemployed, they're more likely to find a job more quickly than mm-hmm. workers with weaker skills. Mm-hmm. People with stronger literacy skills also are more likely to go on to do ongoing training, continued workplace training, and they're more likely to succeed at it. So again, this is all about unlocking potential. Mm-hmm. If you look at income levels, the difference between somebody with strong literacy skills versus somebody with very weak literacy skills, the income difference could be as much as twice. So if you could actually go from very weak skills to very strong skills, you could actually double your annual income. And of course, that's compounded over your entire lifetime. So you actually can't think of something that would actually give you a higher rate of return on your investment mm-hmm. than learning those skills. I think the challenge for a lot of Canadians is that they don't necessarily recognize the benefits of higher literacy. And for a lot of individuals that have weak literacy skills, they may not even recognize that they have those weak skills. I can tell you personally, talking to even family members that I think on the International Literacy Skills Survey would actually rate in a weak category, I think they'd get very upset if I told them they had weak literacy skills. Mm. So I think there's a perception issue. Mm-hmm. And I think that from a societal point of view, I think it's very hard to convince Canadians that we have a literacy problem. Mm-hmm. But the international studies actually show that 4 in 10 youths, close to 5 in 10 adults, and 6 in 10 immigrants don't actually have the literacy skills where we need them to be for a modern knowledge-based economy. Mm-hmm. So when you think about that sort of those sort of ratios shocked me when I first learned about them, because the perception in Canada is we can't possibly have a literacy problem. After all, we have a modern knowledge-based economy. We're a major industrialized nation. We have a well-developed primary and secondary school system. How could we possibly have an issue around literacy? And again, a lot of it I think has to do with perception. I think most people, their view of literacy is it's a binary outcome. You either have strong literacy skills or you don't, and so their perception is more around do you have the ability to read and write? And that's not what we're talking about here. What we're really talking about is the ability to learn and develop stronger skills. So the question becomes, on a spectrum of proficiency ranging from very weak to very strong, where are people's skills today? And the answer is that almost half of Canadian adults don't have the skills where we'd like them to be for a very modern knowledge-based economy. And keeping in mind that with globalization and with the ongoing structural changes in the Canadian economy, this means that we are going to continue to see a labor market where workers are always going to have to be developing new skills, and the economy will be fluctuating. This means that employment opportunities will shift around. Workers have to be flexible. From a business point of view, though, there's also a very strong business case for investing in literacy, and this is one of the reasons why TD is a very strong advocate for literacy. If I was a business consultant and I came to a business, I said, listen, I want to sell you a product. The product I want to sell you, if you invest in it, it will increase worker output, it will increase profitability, it will reduce work stoppages, it will reduce labor relations problems, it'll increase your ability to train your workers, it'll improve worker retention. Would you invest in that product? And the answer would be absolutely, because it sounds like a miracle product. But in actual fact, that's what literacy does. When the Conference Board of Canada did a survey in the 1990s and asked businesses to identify what are all the benefits from stronger literacy skills, this is all of the things they highlighted. That in actual fact, it provided huge benefits in a wide array of areas. So ultimately, again, this goes back to the starting point. The starting point is that literacy is a foundation. It's what you build an awful lot of other things on. And so it really doesn't matter whether you're looking at it from an individual point of view or a business point of view. Stronger literacy skills has huge payoffs. And finally, from a societal point of view, and from a government point of view, there's also a big payoff, because people with stronger literacy skills are more likely to be involved. They're in the community. They're more likely to volunteer. They're more likely to have better health. And if you're concerned about the pressures on the Canadian healthcare system, again, higher literacy can play into taking some of that pressure off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it doesn't solve it doesn't solve all the ailments in the economy and society, but what it does do is it's one thing you can invest in that has very far-reaching implications.
Terrific. You made some salient points as it relates to productivity and the economic impact, what a more literate Canada would mean. And in reading in some of the information you've provided, Craig, through Literacy Matters, there's a number I think you've put on that in terms of GDP and what that would mean to increasing levels of literacy. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. The bottom line is that if you increase the literacy skills in Canada from where they are today to a point where workers generally had the desired level of literacy based on the international studies that sort of correlates the skill set with more success in the labor market and better income outcomes. If you were actually to accomplish that, you would create hundreds of thousands of jobs, and you would create a material boost to economic output. Basically, every 1 percentage point increase in the international literacy skills could boost national income in Canada by as much as $32 billion. And that's an enormous payoff for the investment.